my chair does not come back.
She's got 20 minutes.
Yeah, I have to get on
And
the
they were
plane.
calling. She's got to start playing. Okay?
I do want to start by wishing Chief Terry Garrison good fortune in his new job as chief in Glendale, Arizona. He is going back home. He had made the commitment to Houston. He and his wife, they sold their house there. His wife moved. As I said earlier, his daughter and grandson, the whole family moved here, so they made a major commitment to Houston. But he felt this was an opportunity he couldn't pass up to go back home, as he felt it. Although I do know that his wife really likes Houston, and I'm sure they had some really robust discussions about whether they should move back. But I wish him well. What are the questions?
Well, certainly, I just want to follow up on that. Certainly not a surprise, though, because you're coming at the end of your term, and there's uncertainty what the next mayor's going to do anyway.
And Chief Garrison informed me that Glendale had reached out to him and asked him if he was interested in interviewing, and so I did know he was doing it. And it's something that happens at the end of a mayoral term. I think I have a great professional team, and they will serve the next mayor well, but this is a good opportunity for some of them to look and test the market.
Mayor, can you talk about council's decision to sort of shelve the police residency incentive program for now? Were you disappointed by that, or you have some valid complaints about it?
This is a document that we worked closely with the police department and the police union about. It's a policy decision, and council members were all over the map. I don't know that they could have gotten consensus. In fact, my eyebrows went up to hear a council member say that it doesn't matter how long someone takes, you get an incentive of $10,000 incentive to move into a neighborhood and change your mind and decide to move out. We shouldn't go out and recapture the money. I was astounded at that. So we'll go back and look at it, but until we can determine whether there's any consistency among council members on how it should proceed, I don't know when it'll come back.
Mayor, a lot of residents have been contacting us about high water bills. Their water bills have been skyrocketing for no apparent reason. They've been going to the city, and they haven't really been getting much of a response. Is the city doing anything to try and figure this out or help these people?
We deal with water bill complaints on a case-by-case basis. The phone number 713-371-1400, 713-371-1400, or you can contact 311 to get in the queue. But if you call that number directly, the customer service for the water bills, we'll try to figure out what happened. We have heard anecdotally that there are a number of folks who are complaining of high water bills, but until they call us, we can't determine whether that's actually.
Why though? I mean, it seems like, especially in the past few weeks, we've received tons of calls from people. Their bills have just gone.
I appreciate that they've called you. They need to call us.
Could you just comment generally on the financial report? It seems like there are ongoing problems, but is there anything new or is anything
There's
that
not
has to be?
ongoing problems. There's just an ongoing concern about the sales tax revenues as the oil prices continue in the doldrums. And about 30% of our general fund revenue comes from sales taxes, so we watch it very closely. And it can be somewhat volatile, but we budgeted sales tax very conservatively, but clearly the longer the oil prices stay where they are, the more impact, and we want to be able to adjust. We anticipated a drop-off in sales tax to occur before the end of the fiscal year, and that's why I instituted budget controls, that we actually built up a nearly $40 million cushion to roll forward, but then the drop-off didn't occur. But that does give us a base on which to work if we have to make adjustments to the budget. In order to tap into that cushion, I'd have to come back to council, but we built it up for this reason.
So, I beg your pardon, as a result of the sales tax and also revenue, you don't see the impact because you, I want to make sure I understand, you don't see the impact on it because you've got this cushion there?
We don't see any impact yet, because we budgeted sales tax very, very conservatively, and we're still within budget. But at the same time, in anticipation, when the oil prices fell, at the end of the last quarter of the last fiscal year, we began to delay hiring and delay purchases just in case, and that enabled us to roll forward a nice slug of money for fund balance. So we have a bigger cushion than we would normally. In fact, some of the council members were kind of vocal. They said that we were sandbagging, and we prefer to think of it as prudent budgeting.
You're talking about the general plan. First of all, how do you feel about Sierra Bradford's amendment as opposed to his amendment last week? And then if you could just talk about going forward, what needs to happen. I think there's some groups that want to sit down with the city and talk about some specifics.
We worked with Councilmember Bradford once we became aware of his interest, and we came up with language that I was happy with and he was happy with, and we moved forward. He was attempting to use the passage of the general plan to force the creation of a charter review commission. I did not think that was an appropriate motion, and ruled it out of order. This allowed us to move forward, and he was able to raise his concern publicly of wanting to see the city create a charter commission. So it was a nice compromise. As to what happens next, that's a lot of the heavy lifting is going to be the next phase. I know if you listen to council, you think that the world was coming to an end in the passage of a general plan. This is a consensus document that lays out the vision and the broad goals for the city. But when you start assigning dollars to those broad goals, that's when everybody starts throwing elbows at each other. And so the next step is the creation of a work plan, which will incorporate not just the capital projects planning, but other major initiatives. So we'll layer in ordinances and code from the Public Works Department, for example, that we know we review on a regular basis. We'll review from each department what their expected major items are for the course of the year, and lay that out for council instead of the way it comes now, where I know when things are scheduled over the course of the year, but council members kind of see them each week as they come up. So it'll allow us to create a broader roadmap so that the council members can see. But again, so the work plan doesn't necessarily assign dollars, but it may. And then we'll move. So it's multiple phases in this.
And I think there's still some group that are unhappy, like Texas Organizing Project. They want, I think, poverty to be included in the plan. So I think they're going to...
We had plenty of stuff in there to address the issues of the Texas Organizing Project, and as far as I know, they ultimately signed off on the document.
Mayor, I wanted to ask you a question about the, we're going to be voting on term limits in a couple of weeks, 5 weeks, I guess. Can you clarify whether any city council members, as a result of this, would see their terms extended beyond 6 years?
Yes.
Can you talk about that? What can we possibly see?
The item that we put forward had no impact on any sitting council member. It would come in I believe 2019, but council members amended at the table, and those council members who would be entering their third term would be able to serve a 4-year term, and they would have therefore 8 years, and those in their first term
get two more
4-year terms, so they'd actually serve 10 years.
So current council members, some current council members, 10 years, is that what we're talking about?
Correct.
Okay.
I didn't approve it. I voted against it. I don't think it's appropriate. I think I want to do away with term limits. I've never supported term limits. I have a long-standing public position on that. But by applying it to existing or sitting council members, it makes it more difficult to pass. And there is no coordinated campaign to discuss the issue of term limits. So it's really roll of the dice at this point whether it passes.
Are you concerned at all that this could have an impact on other items on the ballot, such as the equal rights ordinance?
No, I haven't seen any polling or anything else that shows any kind of an overlap. I know a lot of the candidates have concerns that having the use of equal rights ordinance on the ballot will bring out voters who would not normally vote in a city election. It remains to be seen whether they will actually take the time to work their way through the city ballot.
How do you think,
Unless you may be doing polling, I haven't seen it.
how do you feel the hero campaign's going?
I feel the hero campaign's going really well. It's just who shows up at the polls. Anybody can poll the city of Houston. The city of Houston supports the hero. The city of Houston supports non-discrimination. The fact that the anti-hero forces have to raise completely false scaremongering issues in order to get any traction at all tells you something. But
But they seem to be getting some traction.
I've been in politics a long time. It is a matter of who shows up at the vote. The only way you can tell whether someone's getting traction is if you're doing polling, and I haven't seen it.
Mayor texting, and then she's gotta go.
Yeah, I got it.
Can you just elaborate on the two, you talked a little bit at council kind of offhand about the two proposals that you'll bring to public safety. Can you just explain that?
There are two ways to implement a texting while driving ban at the local level. One is to post signs in every school zone. The other, and that only applies to school zones, or you can extend it citywide and post signs saying that you can't text while driving at major entry points into the city. I'm going to lay out for council what the options are and let them decide how they want to implement it. This is something that I care about and lobbied for at the state, and the fact that it brought together state legislators from all across the political spectrum, but couldn't get support from either Governor Perry or Governor Abbott is extremely frustrating.
Do you have a preference on one of those two proposals?
I think we ought to ban it citywide, and that would certainly be my preference, but I don't know where council is, and it is a big policy initiative. I think we should have banned it statewide. So of course, I'm supporting a broader look at the city level.
What's your time frame on this? When might you be bringing it to council?
Okay, time frame? I have 10 council meetings left.
You're kind of like the Astros at this point.
Yeah, so it's going to committee in the middle of October, so there's not much time to do it. So we'll see if I can get